You're listening to the audio production of What Works? Common Sense Solutions for a Stronger America by Cal Thomas, published by Zondervan, and read by the author.
Introduction. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There's nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already, long ago. It was here before our time. Ecclesiastes 1, 9 and 10. We don't need a new idea. There's an idea. The idea is called America, and it still works. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida. After 3 decades of writing a syndicated column and as a reporter before that, I've pretty much seen it all, especially man's futile attempts to perfect himself and alter certain behavior through government, specifically the federal government. There are a number of reasons for this failure, but chief among them is that we don't focus on our past, on what worked in previous generations. We haven't just emerged from a cave and must discover fire or invent the wheel. We have a history, a human and an American history. Why does each generation behave as if it is the first? Why does so much of our politics resemble the film Groundhog Day, in which Bill Murray's character wakes up each morning to repeat every event of the day before ad infinitum? Why don't we consult the past and common sense, and yes, ancient truths contained in such books as Ecclesiastes and Proverbs to see what others discovered works before we were born? Wisdom existed before the Internet and other forms of mass communication, and before video games, Facebook, and Twitter. In fact, social media can impede sound thinking and workable solutions to the problems confronting us. Today we have more information than ever, but less wisdom. More talk, but less listening. More things in the superficial showroom, celebrities are a good example, and less in the intellectual storeroom. That would be knowledge. We know what works, historically and instinctively, but politics too often gets in the way, as does ignorance. Too few people pay attention, and the politicians easily pick their pockets, literally and intellectually. Watch the debates on cable TV and listen to the same tired sound bites you've heard so many times. Republican and Democrat strategists, some of them too young to have had an original thought, much less real experience, repeat the familiar one-liners we hear over and over again with nothing resolved. The American public is being gamed by politicians, big media, and other elites whose main interest centers on themselves. When was the last story you saw on TV or read in a newspaper about anyone pursuing, much less achieving, a solution to any major problem? And on rare occasions when someone does pursue a solution, they are demagogued by the other party as not caring about the poor, the elderly, and the unfortunate. Of course, real compassion consists not in endless government checks, but in helping those less fortunate become unpoor by moving them away from government dependence. But this is rarely given voice by the major media, who decide what we should and should not know. In the opening editorial for the March 16, 2013 issue of the British magazine The Economist, there was this, quote, "This is the America that China's leaders laugh at, and the rest of the democratic world despairs of. Its debt is rising, its population is aging in a budget-threatening way, its schools are mediocre by international standards, its infrastructure rickety, its regulations dense, its tax code Byzantine, its immigration system harebrained, and it has fallen from first position in the World Economic Forum's competitiveness rankings to 7th in just 4 years." Last year, both Mr. Obama and his election opponent, Mitt Romney, complained about the American dream slipping away. Today, the country's main businesses sit on nearly $2 trillion in cash, afraid to invest in part because corporate bosses cannot imagine any of Washington's feuding partisans fixing anything. Yet there is another America where things work. One hint comes from what those bosses like to call the real economy. Recent numbers from the jobs market and the housing sector have been quite healthy. Consumer balance sheets are being repaired. The stock market has just hit a record high. Some of this is cyclical. The private sector is rebounding from the crunch, but it also reflects the fact that beyond the District of Columbia, the rest of the country is starting to tackle some of its deeper competitive problems. Businesses and politicians are not waiting for the federal government to ride to their rescue. Instead, they're getting to grips with the failings Congress is ignoring. Unquote. The great impediment.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?